Alright guys, so I have entered a long position here on pound Aussie dollar. Here looking at an hourly chart, so this is a zone that we've had here for quite some time, right? If we go back previously, right, you will recognize this. And really what we've done here is had a nice strong break to the upside and a nice retest right now. This is the second time doing this, and so uh, I was not um, going long here on this first one because my bias at that point was bearish, and so I was looking to go short here, but that did not work out either. So I'm really liking this because if we look at a daily chart, this is what's sort of interesting here, right? Is previous daily candle is what we didn't get back here, right? Previous daily candle, we have a really nice close, and we are now close above this zone, right? Back here, had a close below, and then the daily candles weren't really lining up very nicely, but here, daily candle is closing above this zone, and we have since just formed a new daily candle just a little bit ago, which we have opened to the downside and are now pulling back into this zone to test as support, right? So that's one thing I like about this is it's not just, you're not just looking on an hourly chart to see, zones get tested on a 30-minute or an hourly chart, and that's all you do. That's all that you're doing. What's nice about this is the daily chart is also moving in, is also in correlation with that, right? They're both essentially telling us the same thing. So yeah, anyway, really a fan of this price action. We had a very strong push up, are now pulling back. Don't have exactly a 3-to-1, but I'm very comfortable with the ratio we have here. I think this is going to work out pretty well. So anyway, we'll see in the next couple of candles how we initially react to the zone. Obviously, like I've been saying recently, if you wanted to maybe not be so risky, could wait another 2-3 hours and see if we come up and then retest again, that sort of thing, or at least show an initial response to this level, as in we are, testing it as support, so, or holding the level as support. So anyway, just a little update on this new position I've taken. But yeah, what I really do like I said, is how the daily chart looks here, right? Daily candle closed very nicely above this zone, right? We weren't just closing in the zone, around the zone. We clearly, definitively went above the zone. Or now, new daily candle is pulling back at the start of the candle, so that gives us a very, high probability that this candle will, is establishing a bottom wick, and we can move to the upside. So, anyway, that's what I'm looking at now on pound Aussie dollar. All right, guys. So here we are on pound Aussie. You can see we have reached our target pretty nicely. We were very precise with this because we have started to pull back, and we have, it looks like, broken this recent structure. So this is good. Our targets up here this was a good target to have. Yeah, we had a little bit of drawdown on, at the beginning. But what I really want to look at is obviously, this zone that we've had. Let's go to an hourly. We've had this zone for quite some time here. This goes back to a previous trade. So yeah, we've had this zone for a while. So we have many instances of this zone being respected and sort of rejected, right? And so we know that this is going to be a key level still relative to this price action here. Now, what I want to show why I got in here and was looking for a trade here is because, and I believe I mentioned this at the beginning, you can see this for the entry, is this daily candle, right? So right here with this price action, this zone here, we had a lot of candles closing below, and, right here, this really wouldn't have been an area to go long because we didn't, maybe for a smaller position, right? But we had a large pullback, and, this close wasn't very strong, right? Now, what I don't like about this close is this close obviously closed above this zone, but it closed a little bit too close to this resistance here, which isn't a very favorable area to go long. What you really want is a nice strong close just a bit above, right? Like this is perfect. So here's our zone, and obviously this zone, we can see how it's relevant on the daily chart, but it's also extremely relevant on a 4-hour and 1-hour chart, right? Sort of within that time frame range. But anyway, so this is a weak close here. We obviously closed below. This was, a very strong close, a little bit too above, right? And this was as well too close to this resistance. So what you want, like I said, is something that closes strongly, but not too far above not too far, not too far above the support zone, and that's what we got here. And so what I like about this is this close right immediately, right as the new candle opened here, we opened immediately to the downside. Okay, I don't know if we made maybe a very small top wick, but really no top wick. We opened immediately. Entire body was to the downside, which is exactly what we want to see. So once we get that, we know that what's likely is we are building, creating a bottom wick at the beginning of the daily candle for us to move up for the rest of the daily candle. And obviously that's what we did. We did come down a little bit lower, which is why we just need to have decent stop loss, right? And I mean, like I said, we could have maybe had it a little bit further, which would have been underneath this wick. If we look on an hourly chart, um, right, that would have been just under here. That was the daily low. But I think, when we look on an hourly, we can sort of correct things. I think this is fine. I don't think we really needed to have it underneath this wick. But anyway, I hope that makes sense, right? You want a nice daily close. That is, I mean, it's not going to be the same setup every single time, but what you sort of want is you want your daily and weekly, structure to sort of confirm what you see on the lower time frames, right? So obviously, looking at this on a daily, we see this nice close above our zone, and we open this new daily candle immediately to the downside, and then that already it looks bullish to us. Then when we go to 1 hour chart, what do we see, right? We have the daily close, and then here we open immediately to the downside, and yeah, like I said, we come down a little bit more, but of course it'll never be perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect, so you have to just take everything for what it is, right? But that's why you have stop losses, so you can endure some drawdown, because you're not going to be too precise, right? We're not trying to, we want minimal drawdown, but we're not going to get no drawdown every single time. So, and then we're just targeting this high up here, right? Decent risk to reward, close to a 3-to-1, or 1-to-3, and yeah, overall good position. I hope that makes sense to you. That it's not so much about, oh, this candle closed above the zone, so we're going to go long. You have to factor in risk to reward, right? So here, with this daily candle close, with the drawdown that we could potentially have, because we'd have to have stops, it's just not the best risk to reward, right? But with this, getting a candle to close a little bit above, and then the pullback is not is minimal, right? Because we're not closing so high above like here and here. And so anyway, I hope that makes sense. Good position. Yeah, it's one of those trades I was very confident in, just because, like I said, the daily price action daily structure mixed in with the lower time frame price action. You sort of want everything in harmony, right? You don't want the daily chart to, appear very bearish to you, and then the hourly chart, somehow looks bullish to you, and you're a little bit confused, and so you pick one. It's not that type of thing. You want every time frame to kind of tell you it's like every time frame is telling you a story, right? And it needs to all work together, or else the story doesn't really make sense. That's sort of how I look at it. But anyway, big fan of this position, and yeah, we're going to see how we go from here. We'll probably we have some resistance up here that we're tapping into, obviously, which is kind of why our target was about here, this wick. We'll probably pull back into maybe this level or a little bit lower, and then we'll just, we'll go from there and see where this takes us. All right, so some time has gone on from our pound Aussie trade, and I'm zoomed in here because if I zoom out, you will see how much further we went, right? And so, we got out here before a pullback, came up, pulled back to where, this recent level here, tested it as support, and then just sort of stair-stepped our way up and are continuing up. So I don't know if I mentioned in the previous video you watched right before this, it's been a while, about price pulling back, and maybe that will give us another entry to get in, because I'm completely out of this trade, right? We got in, we got out a lot lower than we are now. So I just want to use this as an opportunity to talk about missed opportunities, right? And it's a big part of trading. A lot of times you'll miss, you'll either miss a trade completely, or you'll get out too early, miss out on a lot of profit, or you will, have too tight of a stop, and you'll get stopped out, and then things go your direction, and you didn't re-enter. And there's sort of this, trading teaches you a lot about life. And one of the biggest things in life is missed opportunities, right? And so that's one of the biggest things in the market as well. um, so how do you deal with that? You're right. um, it can be hard because you can look at this, and you can see, oh, I could have made so much more than I did. I could have had so much profit. I could have whatever XYZ. But really, part of being a mature trader and getting more experience is just accepting that, right? You'll make mistakes. Um, at the very least, right? We still had a good trade, right? Decent risk to reward. We still had a good profit. Um, you know, this is sort of an example of me not taking my own advice, because recently I've been sort of discussing in these videos, um, holding on to little bits of profit, and then taking profit and holding on to little bits and moving stops into either break even or a little bit into profit, and then holding the rest of the position, just in case something like this happens, which is what we've done on gold recently if you've been watching these videos. um, but this will inevitably happen, right? Sometimes you'll just get out. Like, for instance, here, my idea was that, you know, oh, we could hold a little bit maybe, and then, maybe we'll go up further. But then I'm kind of thinking, no, we're probably going to pull back, right? And obviously I was wrong. And so, you just have to sort of move on. One thing that's helped me a lot is losing. Okay. Taking losses, not even just in trading, but, I do a lot of crypto investing, and, I've had some good investments. I've had some terrible, terrible investments where it's just basically just lose all your money, right? Um, and what's really that sort of taught me that, you know, actually making a profit, right? Most people don't make a profit. And so, in a situation like this, right, we can look at this as like, wow, I had a nice trade. I got in a great place. We had a little bit of drawdown, right? But I got in at a great place, had a great trade. Our target made sense, right? We pulled back right after our target, but really should have been looking at things differently. But that's the beauty and the pain and suffering of trading altogether is, um, you can't with complete certainty know what's going to happen. And so that's just what you have to accept, right? That's why, that's what we signed up for doing this. And so, um, you know, dealing with situations like this, like whether, if I didn't enter this trade at all, and you get cold feet, whatever, and you sort of start to doubt your confidence, and you don't press the button and execute, this would have been pretty painful looking at this. But, it's just one of those things you have to use as a learning opportunity, right? So the learning opportunity here is, to have more confidence in holding positions longer, right? There's really, and this is what I talk about in a lot of the recent videos here on the, I've been putting on Teachable is, uh, especially with gold, right? And it's easier with gold than with pound Aussie dollar because, fundamentally we have every reason to be super bullish and super long on gold. Um, I guess we do here on the pound as well, right? But what I'm saying is, with other forex pairs, I'm more likely to get completely out of the position earlier, at a decent risk to reward profit, and then just kind of close and wait for things to continue. But the thing is, there's really no downside to, at a target like this, close 90%, even 90% of the trade, and leave 10% of it open, with stops somewhere in profit or even at break even, right? There's really no drawdown to that. It's like, so what? Maybe it goes back to break even. You still have 90% of the profit you would have had, and then the upside potential is essentially unlimited. And so, that's kind of my whole thought process going forward with trading. But here I just wasn't taking my own advice, right? It's kind of funny how that works. But you can give really good advice, and sometimes you won't take it. But anyway, I mean, looking at this, just technically what we visually see, yeah, we do have a strong support here. I mean, resistance level. Now it will be support, but we had, right, we had all these instances of price failing to push above this level. And so, looking at that, yeah, that makes sense, right? But ultimately, we know long term, um, it's a better strategy to sort of close at your target, close the majority of the position, um, leave a little bit open, right? Leave a little bit open with stops at break even, depending on what software you use. I haven't used MetaTrader in a while, but it's a little bit outdated. But I don't know on there if you're able to close partial positions. Maybe you are. But depending on what you use, you can close a little bit, or at the very least, for your position, you enter your little bit less than your normal position size with normal stop loss target and everything, and then enter a much smaller, like a tenth of that size without that take profit and same stop loss. You could do something like that. Here that would have been great, right? But anyway, the point is, this is inevitable. This is going to happen. This has happened to me a bunch of times this year, just this year. And you just have to sort of be emotionless, right? That's part of trading is um, that's part of trading is just trying to remove emotions from the process of trading and trying to make yourself sort of emotionless and robotic in a sense, and just looking at things for the way that they are, right? You can't change something into what you want it to be in the market. You have to just look at it for what it is and adjust and adapt to that, right? And so here, the things we can learn from this, right? Yeah, I should have kept a little bit open, and then secured my profit, right? But kept a little bit of it open with stops, maybe underneath here at break even, that sort of thing. There's really no downside to that. There's no drawdown. There's unlimited potential upside to that. But the positive thing is we were correct, right? Our analysis was very good on this, right? We had our logic for why we wanted to go long here. This zone has been a zone that's we've been looking at for quite some time. So the good news is we were correct with our idea of what was going to happen. It's just that you can be correct about the direction and really everything except for the actual exit and closing of your position, and that can really make a big difference. And that's kind of what happened here. But like I said, the positive to look at is we actually made money. That's a good thing. We had a good winning trade. Logically, this made perfect sense. We didn't have we didn't get stopped out twice and had to try to re-enter, that sort of thing. Pretty smooth trade. It's just that there's always a lesson to learn, and today the lesson that we learned was holding the position longer with some profit locked in. And I know this doesn't happen all the time. Like, I have tons of trades where I'll close here and it'll immediately correct and that sort of thing. But that's why you close the majority, right? Like 90% even, and you leave a little bit open, risk free. That's sort of how I've had a lot more consistency as of recent. Really, even in the last year, I've improved a lot doing that. Um, but that will sort of offset some other losses, which is good. But that's the thing, is you have to just accept that disappointment occurs, right? Like, a lot of the disappointment that I've had in trading is just a couple of years ago, like taking loss after loss, just continually. And you know, uh, this is better, right? At least you're winning, right? And so you have to sort of get past that, right? Try to get past that. And this is really just, if you want to trade, this is what you have to accept, that you're going to be annoyed, you're going to be disappointed with missed opportunities. But that's just life. There's lots of missed opportunities in life. If you look at the crypto market, right? If you invest in any any digital assets, you have a lot of missed opportunities that probably annoy you, because you pull out your calculator and you see how much money you could have made if you would have bought something that you chose not to because you thought it was too risky, whatever it may be, right? I have lots of stories about that, right? But um, you have to accept that and move on. And getting upset over the past won't change the future. The only way you learn, I heard a good quote that the definition of learning is the same circumstance but a different reaction, a different action from you, right? So in this case, right, the same circumstance would be, I get another entry like this, but what's the different reaction for me? I close I close the majority, right, but I leave a little bit open, room for potential, that sort of thing. So that's how you grow, that's how you move forward. Is the same scenario happens again, the same circumstance happens again, and you react differently to it, right? You learn from your past mistakes instead of holding on to them, that sort of thing. And I know no trade will be exactly the same, but you get what I'm saying, right? With trending markets, we have the same circumstance, and we react differently the next time because of what we learned. You get burned and then you learn, right? And so anyway, just wanted to show this as this is a reality. This happens a lot in trading, and this happens in life, right? Um, you can be correct, and your timing can be a little off, and so anyway, it's just a little. Hope this makes sense. I hope I'm not just rambling, but um, you know, it's a good lesson to learn, right? There's a lot of positives to take away. We had a good trade, and then there's a lot you can learn from this. So anyway, just a little update, and yeah, hope this was helpful for you.